My relationship with my family has always been complicated. I'm the oldest daughter, the planner, the fixer, the one who kept things together. And for most of my life, I did everything I could to be the good kid. I got straight A's, stayed out of trouble, got a scholarship to college, and never once asked my parents for anything. But none of that ever mattered. Because my younger sister, Becca, was the golden child. She didn't follow rules, she didn't care about consequences, and she certainly didn't care about me. Still, my parents coddled her, defended her every bad decision, and showered her with praise for the bare minimum. Meanwhile, I was expected to figure things out on my own. I tried not to be bitter. I told myself that one day, they'd see the difference. One day, I'd be appreciated. One day, they'd say, "Thank you." That day never came. Instead, what came was the betrayal that finally broke me. It started after our grandmother passed away. She was the only one in my family who really saw me, really valued me. When I was in college, she sent me care packages. When I graduated, she cried proud tears while my parents scrolled on their phones. Before she passed, she told me something I'll never forget. "Honey, I know how they treat you. I see it. That's why when I'm gone, I've made sure you're taken care of." I didn't fully understand what she meant at the time, but I thanked her and hugged her tight. A few months later, she passed peacefully in her sleep. Her will was read a couple weeks after the funeral. I wasn't expecting much. Maybe a small gift or keepsake. But when the lawyer started listing the items, I nearly fell out of my chair. She had left me her home. Not just her home, but also a significant amount of money, savings she'd built over years of frugality and sacrifice. She left a small portion to Becca and some to charity, but the bulk of it? It came to me. My parents were livid. They were polite in the lawyer's office, but the minute we got home, the mask came off. My mother cornered me in the kitchen and said, "You need to do the right thing and split that with your sister. It's only fair." I blinked at her, stunned. Why? That was Grandma's decision. She was old. She didn't know what she was doing. You know, Becca has more financial need. I almost laughed. Because she keeps quitting jobs and wasting money? My mom's face turned red. "Watch your tone." And just like that, I was the bad guy. Again. Becca, of course, didn't take it well either. She called me the next day in full dramatic mode. "So you're just gonna take everything? Wow. You always thought you were better than me." I didn't respond. There was no point. She wouldn't hear it. I moved into Grandma's house a few months later. It was old, but full of character. I fixed it up room by room, new paint, repaired the garden, replaced the old curtains with sunlight-friendly ones. Every change I made felt like honoring her memory. I lived a quiet, peaceful life. Until the phone call that changed everything. It came almost 2 years later. I was sipping tea on my porch when my dad called me, which was rare. "Hey," he said, voice tight. "We need to talk. It's about the house." I paused. "What about it?" He hesitated, then said, "We're in a bit of a situation." Apparently, they had taken out a second mortgage on their own home to fund one of Becca's failed business ventures. Then, to cover the repayments, they'd quietly used the deed of Grandma's house as collateral on a private loan. They thought they could pay it off before anyone noticed. They couldn't. Now, the lender was calling in the debt, and the house I was living in, the house left to me, was on the line. But how? I asked, heart racing. How could they use something that wasn't even theirs? Turns out, when the house was transferred, the final paperwork hadn't been completely notarized. A clerical error. The property was still in legal limbo. And now, they needed my signature to finalize ownership, and to authorize the release of funds to prevent foreclosure. They weren't calling to help me. They were calling because they needed me to bail them out. I was shaking. "You want me to sign off on saving a house you tried to steal from me?" My dad sighed. It's not like that. We didn't mean what? Didn't mean to lie? Didn't mean to steal? Didn't mean to betray me again? Silence. Look, he finally said, this is a family matter. Don't make it worse than it is. Becca's already going through enough. There it was again. Becca's feelings. Becca's comfort. Becca's needs. Mine didn't matter until they needed something. I didn't give them an answer that day. Or the next. I took time to breathe. To process. I talked to a lawyer and learned that because the property was never properly finalized, I had every right to block the release. I could also sue for fraud, and likely win. But part of me didn't want a legal battle. Part of me just wanted peace. Then I remembered something. Grandma used to say, when people show you who they are, believe them. But when you show them who you are, make sure they remember it. So I made a decision. A week later, I asked my parents to meet me in the house, my house. They showed up, Becca in tow, all dressed up like they were walking into a courtroom. I handed them a folder. Inside was a document, a notarized letter stating I would not authorize the loan release. And that I was pursuing full legal transfer of the property in my name. My mom gasped. Becca rolled her eyes. You're really doing this, she said. You're seriously choosing a house over your family? I looked her dead in the eye. No. I'm choosing me for once. The fallout was nuclear. They tried guilt-tripping me. Crying. Accusing me of betrayal. But I stood firm. And a month later, the house was officially mine. Fully. Legally. Irrevocably. The lender seized their home. I didn't gloat. I didn't post about it. I didn't celebrate their downfall. I just kept going. It's been over a year now. Becca lives in an apartment across town. My parents moved in with her temporarily. We haven't spoken in months. And for the first time in my life, I feel free. I still miss Grandma. But I feel her here. In the garden I restored. In the creaky old floors she loved. In the book she left behind. And in the quiet, peaceful truth that I finally stood up for myself. I used to think being the good daughter meant sacrificing my voice, my needs, my worth. Now I know better. Now I know that doing what's right doesn't always look like forgiveness. Sometimes, it looks like closing the door and locking it. They gave everything to Becca when I needed them most. And now? Now they need me. But this time, I'm not saving them.